12 o'clock. I'm Amber Rowden, the community storyteller here at Rainforest, Alberta. If you are new to Rainforest, please introduce yourself in the chat. Please share an emoji on the screen. We want to get to know you. So how the format works, we're going to do an introduction and then to the Rainforest, and then we'll have our guest speaker share their story, and then we'll go into networking, and then we'll share some community announcements at the end. So I'm going to start us off with the land acknowledgement, and I found this really great video that I'm going to share that shares the land acknowledgement, and it's from the Calgary Film Festival and the Rosa Foundation. As always, I'm going to have to reshare because I forgot to share my sound. 1 second, I apologize. Okay. Okay, here's the land acknowledgement.
Growing up, my grandma always told me that the land took care of us, and it still is taking care of us, and it never asked for anything back.
It is a way of life to always honor the environment. It's not something that you just can turn on and off. It's a living daily lifestyle.
And land acknowledgement is a way to acknowledge that we're coexisting in this land with the native people, and we should acknowledge that this is actually their traditional territory. But at the same time, we are all guests to this land.
The land plays a big factor in who we are. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us strong people.
Growing up, my grandma always told me that the land took care of us.
So I absolutely love that video. You can check them out on YouTube, and it really describes the land acknowledgement here in Calgary. But for those of you that are in the Edmonton area, we acknowledge the traditional lands of the Treaty 6 territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, as well as the Métis. And if you're coming from somewhere else in Canada or Alberta or the world, please share your own land acknowledgement with us in the chat. So to introduce the Rainforest, we have our wonderful friends from Edmonton. We have Lan here with us, so I'm going to pass it over to her, and she will introduce the Rainforest.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you for having me again. Hi, everyone. My name is Lan, and I'm one of the volunteers for Rainforest here in Edmonton. So we are a community of innovators, doers, dreamers, connectors, and builders. And I can see we have a lot of you here, and in building up our community. So welcome, everyone. This is lunch, our weekly lunch without lunch. Amber, are you going to start the video?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
What does it take to realize an idea, or for a seed to sprout? At Rainforest, Alberta, we know the answer is rooted in trust. Traditionally, Albertans have cultivated their ideas in established systems. Inputs that don't fit these systems are weeded out. Opportunities for growth are missed. But now, Albertans want a dynamic landscape that can evolve organically, like a rainforest. At Rainforest, Alberta, we believe a culture of trust is the fertile soil where ideas grow. Our budding innovation ecosystem is a network of relationships pulling each other up as they push forward in their own field. Trust breaks down barriers. An open, inclusive network increases collaborative innovation. Successful breakthroughs inspire new ideas. A cycle begins. Rainforest Alberta is a movement to amplify trust by cultivating honesty, inclusion, and accountability. How? Our social contract holds us accountable to demonstrate trust across the province. We meet to have honest conversations around collaboration. This leads to more inclusive spaces for everyone to fearlessly build new ideas together. By raising the standard of trust, Alberta's ideas, talent, and resources can be evergreen. Visit rainforestab.ca to sign the social contract and start growing together.
Amazing. I just love this video. And it was also created by one of our rainforesters too. Premises is based on creating trust, and Nishan, just to let you know, we start that by poking fun at each other. So Peter, well done there. Welcome to the family.
Yeah, I love
So-
that. Thank you.
So we Rainforest, we do an annual measurement, and we focus on the 6 pillars, which are culture, leaders, resources, engaged activities, policy and infrastructure, and role model. And what we're doing right now is a huge focus on the culture. We are building that culture of trust. We're building culture of friendship. And through that, we believe that, when you know each other well enough, you get things done so much quicker. And that is where we're increasing that velocity of collaboration. And each and one of you here, we are role models to the community. So, you are each, amazing leaders in your own space, and role model it's a big thing. So Amber does a lot of feature storytelling. So, please do share your stories with Amber as you go along. Next. So here to make the most out of this 1 hour, introduce yourself in the chat, which a lot of you are doing. That's awesome. And tell people what you're working on, what you're looking for, and then how you can help. And somebody there, connection will happen. You can connect with each other through direct messaging. Most of us, we'd like to tell everybody to put on your camera, just because we like to see everyone smile, and we're going to put a face to a name. And feel free to ask questions. We only know by being curious, right? We know about each other by being curious. There's an amazing Slack workspace. I believe that if you've signed the social contract, you'll get access to the Slack workspace. Lots of resources there and lots of great conversations happening there every day. Lunch notes. I love this part, because if you missed one Wednesday, you can't show up. You can just check in the lunch notes. Amber, you're so good at just putting it every week. And there we can always see what the conversations were on, what resources have been put up there. And I just love it. So I don't come to the Lunch with Our Lunches every week, but I do check the lunch notes, because that's where we get all our resource information. And all those folks, new people to the Rainforest, you guys are awesome. Put in your names and how to contact, and this is great. And then, of course, another place you can visit our Lunch with Our Lunches is on YouTube. So there we can also do it. A bit of information or news or whatever before bedtime, really quick. You can check it out on YouTube. So it's really awesome. Next, thanks. Today we are working on my favorite part. That's trust. We give it to others before expecting to receive it in return. And that is a bit of that pay it forward. And again, the really strong fundamental of Rainforest is that premises on creating the trust amongst all of us. So we start by trusting each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Lan. I always love your energy and positivity. It's fantastic.
Thank you for having me. Have a great one.
Thank you. I also forgot to mention, if you have a background that you'd like to share, please share a background in your Zoom. I shared the LGBTQ2S+ to represent my background, and if there's one that you'd like to share, we definitely encourage that. So we have a Rainforest OG, a Rainforest elder, he likes to call himself, with us today. So Peter Lafontaine is chairman of Rainforest Energy Corp, which is focused on processing waste into renewable biofuels. He is also focused on building a diversified economy by building a strong, vibrant, healthy technical innovation ecosystem. I love this fact about Peter. Peter moved to Alberta in 1977 and was a fur buyer with the Hudson Bay Company. Currently, Peter is a strong community contributor using technology and business skills to improve people's lives. Think of Peter as a business geek using technology and innovation to create jobs, improve the economy and quality of life. His approach to business is purpose-driven and profitable. So we're excited to have you here today, Peter, to share your story with us, and I will pass it on over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Amber. Okay, I'm going to share up a screen here and see if that comes across. Is that
Perfect.
showing up?
Yes.
All right, perfect. And I'll just go into slide mode here and see if that still works. Got it? Is that showing up?
Looks good.
Okay, so I won't go through my background again, but I can tell you that trust and authenticity and community are key to a lot of things. And I'll just shift that trust conversation to say trust is earned and not given. So there's a really important message there for our communities as we move forward. The business that I'm in now is we've taken the name Rainforest because Rainforest is a movement, and it's been the inspiration in this province for what we now have as a fairly vibrant innovation ecosystem. So the name is available to people if they want to create a rainforest thing. You know, there's nothing that would stop you from doing that, which is great. So the business I'm in, and this disclaimer is up there because we've been raising public money and investment. So you got to say, you know, a lot of the stuff that we share here is based on our best knowledge. Our intention from the very beginning, not because of recent events in the Indigenous world, but certainly from the very beginning, because as Amber mentioned, I was a fur trader with the Hudson Bay Company. I traveled this entire province and bought skins from farmers and trappers and Hunterites, and I mean, every walk of life. So I had a really good chance to, as a young man, get to meet a lot of people. And you'll see how this whole thing comes back to roost in this business that we're building. So our business is energy transition, creating new clean fuel for a decarbonized world. We're taking waste, which is happening out there all the time in Canada, which is from the forestry industry. That's the treetops and the branches get limbed off and they get put on the ground, and then to get rid of them, they get burned to get rid of them. And then we're also in the farming industry, flax stalk. You know, think of the tomato, not the tomato, but everything else is the stalk, not the wheat, but the shaft, not the hemp plant, but, you know, not the leaves and the seeds and the oil, but the stalk itself. That's all biomass, and that's all got carbon rich elements in it. And then we also use methane, which is natural gas, as part of the feed for this facility that goes through known catalytic processes. This is processes that have been around for 60, 70 years. These catalysts convert when you put these two things together, syngas through catalyst process, and it creates a new green fuel. And so my first challenge to the Rainforest Group is to come up with a name for this new green fuel. This new green fuel is basically the same molecule as gasoline, and that's very important, but it's got no benzene, no sulfur, and it's called a drop-in fuel, which makes it cheaper than our current use of other fuels, and I'll explain what that is. So the process is a gasifier. So that's basically a giant pressure cooker with low oxygen. We raise the temperature and it takes the biomass particles, swirls it around, and it creates syngas. It also produces a bit of CO2. So CO2 is captured inside the facility. So there's no flaring. There's nothing from our facilities that goes into the air. Zero, nada. So it's complete. And then when we capture the CO2, we either use it for other useful, we can bottle it and use it for, you know, it's the same stuff that goes into your fizzy drinks, basically. And then we produce this fuel, and we have a offtake agreement to buy all the fuel we can produce in North America from our facilities. And when I say facilities, you'll see how this business can scale. I was going to call this a how to start a multi-billion-dollar business with $50,000 would have been the theme of this story. Anyway, what makes this work is that we can make very good money without carbon credits. And you may love or not love carbon credits, but carbon credits are a governmental thing. And if you have a business that depends on carbon credits, and by the wave of government, the carbon credits go away. And that's possible because, you know, there's lots of people saying carbon credits are just a way to shuffle the money around. So we can make money without carbon credits. We can build 50 of these facilities and build a $12.5 billion business that has fantastic economic returns. We can displace 2.9 billion liters of ethanol and gasoline into Canada, so we can actually build all of this this product right here in Canada. We currently import 1.2 billion liters of ethanol into Canada. And if anybody here is a motorhead or uses cars or internal combustion engine, ethanol is added to your pump today. And does anybody know why? Quick question. Why do we put ethanol into the fuel supply today? Any answers? If not, we'll just carry on.
To make it more combustible?
No, to make it cleaner. And so the idea is to make it cleaner. And it comes from corn crop, by the way. And we'll get back into that a little bit. So ethanol is basically a 25 or 30-year-old fuel. It was promised to the US government that once the business got up and running, that it would be able to stand alone economically, but it continues to get subsidized today, and it's based on corn crop. So the facilities that we're building do not use anything that is edible, either by animals or by people. It's all waste that's available. And then we can create 12,500 permanent jobs. And we're trying to build all of these facilities within indigenous communities and rural communities where possible. And there's a lot of reasons for that, largely because of the distribution and the economics of the business. So this is just another picture, but each one of these facilities is going to cost $250 million to build. Takes the available biomass within 75 kilometers of the facility itself. And that's part of the economic story. And because if you have to collect the stuff and put it onto a truck and take it to the facility, there's an economic value point and a carbon footprint associated with that. The gasifiers, again, no emissions. This is known product and technology that's been around for a long time, but has been getting better. The natural gas is the substitute, is a half feed for this. We could also use methane from, say, a garbage dump, or we could use methane from manure methanation. But this is the economic model. So there's a big piece of this is how this makes money. And if you can build a business that can last for 50, 60, 70 years, now you've got a business that can transform communities significantly. We produce syngas, goes through a syngas cleanup, catalytic process. These catalysts, by the way, do not have any rare earth minerals in them. They're an off-the-shelf catalyst from a very reputable, licensable partner that's been around for 50, 60 years. And then we produce the gasoline, and we also produce 10% liquid propane, which is a new green propane. All of this product can fit into today's infrastructure, and that makes another part of the economics work. So this can work with today's internal combustion engines. It can work with the propane bottles that are in northern Canada all over the place that people rely on for heat and cooking, etc. So it fits in today's infrastructure, which is another big part of the economics. The super major, there's a handful of them out there, Exxon, Shell, those types of businesses have given us an offtake agreement to buy all the fuel we can produce. But think about that. We have a customer before we start the business. They want all the fuel we can produce. If you had a software technology company, you still have to go out and sell and find customers for that sort of stuff. And this one has an off-the-shelf customer right out of the gate. And another thing that's interesting is I've built a couple software companies in my history and sold them. But what happens when you build and sell a software company, often the jobs go as well. And with these facilities, they stay in place in those communities for 50, 60, 70 years. The asphalt refinery that's out in Moose Jaw, if you don't know about it, you can look it up. It's been there for 80 years. And it's because it makes money. It's been making money all that time. So the community embraces it. It's jobs. They keep it working. And if you have a facility that makes money and continues to bring money and economy and jobs to those communities, it's critical. Any unused CO2 that we use gets sequestered in saline aquifers or sandstone formations directly below the property. So part of picking the right location is very key to the metrics and the economy of this business. And then our facilities also produce extra power. It's an exothermic facility. That means when you start it, it generates its own power. We have extra electric power that comes from the facility. We're actually a net producer of water. think of that. We're taking this energy, creating energy, and we're actually a producer of water in the same thing. And those additives can be useful for other co-ventures, which I'll get into in a few minutes. Carbon index is very important. So the top line there, the red, is kind of where diesel, gasoline, and propane exist today in terms of its carbon footprint. And carbon footprint is from cradle to grave, when it gets sourced and when it gets demolished in terms of its use. But you can also see here that we have electric vehicles, solar, diesel, nuclear, onshore wind, and ethanol. And they're all carbon positive. So they all have a net carbon impact, positive meaning negative impact. So by the time you build a solar panel farm and it gets demolished, and the source materials and various products that have to go into it, the plastics, etc., it has a net positive imprint. Our facilities, when we take forest slash and the natural gas, are carbon negative. So we actually are a net negative zero, and we need more of these types of things. Our economic value point is the one that's the carbon minus 19, because that's where it makes most money. But we could also go directly from biomass and carbon sequestration to fuel, but we won't get the same economics out of the business. And we can also go from manure methanation. But then again, that's extraordinarily expensive, and then there might not be an ongoing supply of manure to keep these facilities running for 50 and 60, 70 years. So that's the carbon footprint. And I'm just lucky in my life. I mentioned that at the top of the call here, and I surround myself with people that are way smarter than I am. So I have a team, I have a CEO, I have legal counsel, I have Indigenous partners giving us guideways and pathways to how do we do this better with communities. But we've also built facilities throughout the world. So we've got the skills to be able to do this and share these types of facilities with people. And you can't get anything done without a smart, solid team. And just if you're growing a business, go find smarter people than you that can share and help you become stronger. Project economics is so key to this. So that little gold line is profitability without carbon credits, and the top line is with carbon credits. So, and this is the current spot price of oil and gas, and everybody's upset that we're, north of $100. But we don't think it's ever going to stay there. We think that it's actually going to settle out. And every estimate says right now that the futures price for West Texas Intermediate will be somewhere around $73. That's like 25% less than it is right now or more. And our business can actually make money right down to $37 WTI. And that's very important, again, in terms of the sustainability of the business. So we can make a 17% return without carbon credits and a whopping 30% internal rate of return unlevered with carbon credits. So it's a very viable long-term business. So this is kind of where the jobs comes in and the circular economy presentation side of this. So our business is between those brackets. We're building these facilities that at the gate, we receive the forest slash, we pay $90 a ton for it, which is 30% more than the market pays for right now from the farmers and from the tree harvesters. And then we also pay market price for natural gas as it comes into our facility. Our facilities are about 10 acres. So 2.5 acres of that are the actual facility with the gasifier, with the distillation tower and all the other components. And then again, so that's where 40, 50 jobs would arrive. There'd be 100 jobs in the forest and the agricultural slash collection, but those are not our businesses. Our business is to build the facility. And then when we go into an industrial park, we can provide cheap, low cost power, heat, water, and biogenic CO2, which can be an additive to a greenhouse venture if somebody wants to do that. And that's very important for many of our northern communities because the cost of getting green, nutritious food into northern communities and many communities in Canada is very expensive. And it requires a truck and it's got to come from somewhere. And so we can take a greenhouse operation from a 5% profit margin to 35% with cheap electricity, power, water, and biogenic CO2. So that's the first part. Second part of this is that we're building this in many communities. Our plan is to build not just one $250 million facility, but 50. So we have to be very selective about what a site makes sense and how that works out. So we got to make sure there's an available biomass supply, natural gas supply, a rail line typically to take the fuel that we produce down the line to the refiners where they want to put it into the blend. We're looking for a geological zone where we can sequester the unused CO2. And then, of course, more importantly than anything is a willing partner. Like you want the community to want this in their community for the revenue generation. This is a franchise model. So our business and where I'm the chairman is that the parent corporation at the top here, we're going to have many of these facilities, and each one of these facilities will have its own board, its own executive, its own revenue, its own equity owners. So each of these will be, and then the Rainforest Parent Corp will own 8 to 10% of each of these facilities as we expand them across Canada and around the world. So we've identified many sites that are suitable, that have the right biomass, the geological formation, land rights, subsurface rights. Yeah, and so I'll just leave it here at this circular economy slide and see if we have any questions, and there is going to be a test.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. We do have a lot of questions in the chat.
Good.
So we have one from Mike. Could you use corn bio waste to replace the ethanol, but keep the corn in the food supply? Would the economics work?
You mean just the corn stalk, Mike? And it's possible that you could if you had enough corn stalk. Problem with corn stalk is that it's not a regenerative product. Whereas if you say hemp or cannabis, if you plant cannabis, it actually regenerates the soil to some better degree. So yes, however, is the answer.
We have another question from Nishant. How are hydraulic fracturing companies reacting to this?
Well, it's very important to understand the saline and sandstone formations and the frac technology. So the sequestration that we're doing won't affect it one way or the other because we're doing very minor amounts and we're doing micro sequestration at between 3,000 and 5,000 feet where we know that it can be solidified and be held under the ground. So frac companies, as they try to improve their technology and stuff, we have to have a better understanding of the reserve that's below the ground, because just a well site is just one entry into that reserve, but it's neither here nor there for our business model.
Okay, we have a question from Al. He says, dumb question. Although there's no dumb questions, Al. There's never any dumb questions.
Except for now.
Why are these plants not already all over Alberta? I can only think of one, conspiracy theories, or two, people don't know about it yet.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. So number one, I would say that if you think about the ethanol market, there's a resistance from the farm lobby in the United States. Everybody wants to stay on the ethanol train because it gets heavily subsidized and they want it to stay in place. And sadly, in Canada, we're actually building a few more ethanol facilities here in Canada, and I'm not sure why we do it, but it's hard to change that trajectory. So this new green fuel is in the discovery phase, and for some people they just don't understand it. So the why is we just haven't moved fast enough on this level.
And then we have another one in the chat from Romel. International oil and gas companies are known on buying alternate energy technologies and then shelving the said technology to remove competition. How does your company prevent that from happening?
Because we're doing this as a private venture, and the parent company of Rainforest is staying private. And, to get bought out and sell ourselves out to, being shelved is not something we would do. So we're very much in building long-term returns for our investors. So this play would be, you're going to get involved and have an equity component that'll pay you back 16-70% per annum. So it's very much a sustainable model without having to sell out to the big corporate players.
Alan.
Wow. I liked this one before I even got the presentation, but this is fantastic. Well, thank you. Where do you guys where's there a biomass residual supply? I'm trying to figure out where exactly you guys look to put these facilities and things like that. Where's a good place?
Well, one of the sites is in Wabamun, which is at the end of Lake Wabamun, where the Paul First Nation is. And so there's an abundance of tree slash, because there's a vibrant forestry. Anywhere where there's a vibrant forestry industry. Burns Lake in BC is, they're just like awash in forest slash. The other part of this is anywhere in the agriculture industry where they have excess stocks, whether that be wheat stock or flax stock or, some of those stocks they can't get rid of, Alan, other than by either baling it or burning it or trying to find other purposes for it, because it doesn't digest into the soil as quickly as they would like it to. So the fertilizer approach to growing food is a much more efficient and effective way. And, that regenerative soil concept is starting to take on, but it's still economically quite expensive to be able to produce the food quantities that are necessary.
So, and is it, I'm thinking that I just have this vision in my head of somebody going by with a combine, they're taking off the wheat, and out the back of the combine is that all the straw that you're looking for? It's getting spread out. Oh.
Yeah.
So is it also an issue of trying to convert farmers into, bringing that in so that it can be picked up and moved to the facility for manufacturing?
It's perfectly about economics. So if you can offer a farmer $90 a ton at the gate, it makes sense for them to capture it, bring it to the gate. If not, then it's better to find an alternative purpose for it, because farming is a very thin margin business. So the farmers themselves will determine whether they're going to bring this product to our gate.
Okay. I'll try and make this my last question. So would it be like a great location for you to take over where they've been taking down some of these big old granary, they're replacing a lot of the granary elevators and stuff like that, because they do have the rail lines and probably the lines to the local farmer markets?
I would say no to that. I would say that those are the farming communities who have this byproduct, which is the waste component. The silos are typically there for drying and holding grains that are going to be put into a train and sent somewhere. But those are the suspect communities where they have big farming reach. And again, it's within 75 to 100 kilometers that we want to place these facilities because of the transportation costs, because has a bearing on that.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions for Peter? Please feel free to raise your hand or unmute to ask your questions. Sweet. Ross.
I had commented in chat, Peter, but if you wanted to connect with anyone in rail development industry, I've got a good number of contacts in that area there, looking at some new train technologies as well as transportation logistics to be implemented throughout Canada.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ross. The other part is we started out on this venture because we were going to actually demolish spent rail ties and put them into the gasifier and turn them into these new clean fuels. And that's still a potential because rail ties are kind of a nasty thing. And sadly, you know what they do with them to get rid of them? Burn them to create electric power. Yeah. Guess what happens? Do you know what the wood pellet business is? That's where we take wood, forest waste, and we knock it into little pellets. And then some people put them into their pellet stoves to heat, or they use them to smoke their meat and that sort of stuff. The majority of wood pellets that are produced in Canada, think about this. If you're a green-minded person, get put into a truck, get put into a train, get put into a ship, get shipped to Europe to be burned in replacement of coal to generate electric power.
Not efficient at all.
I just like, what? Anyway. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to move into breakout rooms now, but thank you so much, Peter, for being here and sharing. And thank you, everyone, for being engaged in the chat and asking questions. During the networking, please feel free to share what you can offer to someone and what you're looking for. Feel free to continue the conversation on what we learned today. Really just get to know each other, and we'll probably have time for a couple networking rooms. Breakout rooms. So I will start those now. Back, everyone. We were just talking about Rainforest and how it came to be, and a little bit about building that trust. But we are at the community announcements part. And again, thank you to Peter for being here today and sharing. I have a few community announcements. And the first person studied tech ecosystems was one of the co-authors of the Rainforest book. Thank you for sharing that, Bridget. So some of the community announcements that I have, there is a queer innovation meetup this Friday at the Broken City. Starts at 4 p.m. It's in collaborations with Pixels and Pints. So if you want to, come on out and join us. If you haven't signed the social contract, I'll drop that link in the chat. Please sign that if those 10 values resonate with you. Also, if you haven't already, please listen and subscribe to the Leaders, Big Ideas, Innovators, Leaders, Innovators, and Big Ideas podcast. So sorry, I said that wrong. Subscribe to that. There's a new episode every Tuesday. If you want to be a guest or a host, we love having people on the show. So please join us for that. And there's also a Great Prairies Pitch Marathon happening tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So come check that out, see some startups pitching, and there is an after party in Calgary and Edmonton and across the prairies. So I will post all those links in the chat, and I will stop talking and open the floor for everyone to share their announcements. Please raise your hand and unmute to share.
Amber, you took my announcement, Amber, so I don't have to say it. But the after party's at Briggs at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow for the Great Prairies Pitch Marathon. So hopefully we'll see everybody there.
Awesome. You did a way better job announcing it than I did, Jade. So I'm glad you stepped in.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jade, I think had his physical hand up before my virtual hand.
There. Oh, yeah.
I haven't officially announced the next event yet, but Civic Tech YYC is starting back up in the fall. We are looking for more organizational volunteers, just because our team's a little bit small coming out of the pandemic, and we're wanting to start some more in-person events as well as hackathons. So if anyone is interested in volunteering to be a co-lead, feel free to reach out to me there.
Hey Ross, can you send me the info?
Yeah, I dropped the link in chat there to our main website, and then my email address is there as well.
You just did. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I did also want to mention that the Libby podcast, we're looking for some sponsorships as well, if you're interested in getting your name out there better. And also Inception U is currently doing intake for cohort 9. So if you want to pivot your career into tech and become a software developer or something tech adjacent to that, please visit inceptionu.com, which I've just put in the chat.
Awesome. Do you have any other announcements? David.
I was going to say, I think we should have Peter do a second one because there just seems to be so much to ask and so much to know about what Rainforest Energy is doing. And it'd be great to have a little bit more information. So
Happy to do chemistry, physics, conversation, economics, all of those sorts of things, because you're right, Alan, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
So what I presented, now our website is rainforestenergy.ca, and it's actually got a downloadable picture that gets deeper in many of the things. And my CEO is like to die for in terms of knowledge beyond what I have. So happy to set up separate sessions with people if they want to get in and do a deeper dive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll announce just, again, I have to put it into formal format, but we're going to do that big Branch Out Foundation fundraiser again next year. With lots of goals there to increase, that's, by the way, money that goes to natural science research for health, both mental and physical. And we're going to do that. I'm going to start now to raise money next June when we do a race around the lake together, and hopefully you'll all want to join me.
Cool.
Go, David.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the pitch marathon includes Manitoba as well as Alberta. Don't be a snob and just stay in Alberta. Skip over Saskatchewan and check out Manitoba.
No.
Check them all out. They're all going to be great. It's going to be a very fun event. So hopefully we'll see you all there and you'll register. It is at the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for coming and joining us at Lunch Without Lunch. Hopefully we'll see you next week. We have Inclusity here who will be doing a panel. We're very, very excited about that. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great week.